everyone, in this video we're going to go through the anatomy of the eye and the ear. If you take a look at all the structures, make sure you can identify the structure in the eyes and the ear. In addition to that, if there is a star after the structure, make sure I can identify the function of that as well. All right, so let's start off with the sclera. The sclera is going to be a white layer that surrounds the eyes. Actually, let's start with the lacrimal gland. Okay, so here's the lacrimal gland. This is where your tears are produced. And in the lacrimal gland, it's going to be found more on the lateral side of the eye. So here, this would be the left eye because the lacrimal gland is found on the left side. So this is the left eye. And then now let's move into the sclera. So notice how the lacrimal gland and the sclera, they both have a star at the end of after their name. Make sure you know the function as well. So for example, lacrimal gland, the function would be to produce tears. The sclera is going to be a thick white layer where all the eye muscles are going to anchor to. You can see one eye muscle that's anchored to here. This is the superior oblique muscle. This muscle is actually going to help depresses your eye, so keep it a little bit downward. The muscle on the bottom is called the inferior oblique. It's not shown here, but the inferior oblique muscle would be the one that helps elevate the eye. Moving into this diagram of the eye model, you have the superior rectus muscle. This is going to be the muscle that helps pull the eyes upwards. You also have the inferior rectus muscle right here, which pulls the eyes downward. You then also have the medial rectus, which pulls the eyes medial towards the middle. And then you have the lateral rectus, which helps pull the eye to the side. All of these muscles combined are going to help give your eye its movement. It's also going to be important for eye rotation, like rolling your eyes. And then if you take a close look at the middle, the opening that you see here is the pupil. So this pupil can actually constrict or dilate. Okay. And then right here you have the optic nerve. The optic nerve is where all of these sensory nerve that perceive light information is going to travel out of your eye and get sent to the occipital lobe of your brain for visual processing. And then here is the pupil, like I mentioned earlier. It's this opening right here in the center of the iris, which is the pigmented part. So this pupil can constrict when you are in a bright room because you don't need that much light. But then if you're in a darker room, your pupil is going to dilate so you can let in as much light as possible so you can see better. All right, so let's go a little bit further in depth. This is the eye model if we were to take out all the structures on the inside. So you can see the sclera, which is the whiter portion where all the muscles attaches to. You can see the cornea. Now the cornea is the first part in your eye where light enters. So you take a look at the pathway of light. Light enters in via the cornea. And the cornea is, it has a different beniture, different curve from person to person. So if you are wearing contact lens, you measure the curve of the contact lens, and the contact lens actually goes on top of the cornea. So that's why you have to go get a contact lens fitting because they want to give you the appropriate lens with the correct curvature for your cornea. So this is where light initially enters. And then this right here is the iris. Now some people, they have blue irises, green irises. Some people have brown irises, black irises. There's also hazel. So the iris is the pigmented part of the eye. Depending on how much melanin content there are, it will give you a different eye color. And then this right here, the opening, that is the pupil that we discussed earlier. So light comes in via the cornea, it's going to travel through the pupil, and then it's going to hit the lens. So the lens is a structure that is in the more towards the inner part of the eyes. So the lens is not in the anterior. It is in the anterior segment, but it's more in the posterior part of the anterior segment. So essentially you can see the cornea here where light enters, it travels through the pupil, it travels through the iris, then it hits the lens. So this is the lens right here. All right, so this area is the ciliary body. The ciliary body is going to be a band of muscle that helps anchor the lens. So you can see parts of the ciliary body here. And then you can see the ciliary body in the iris as well that helps control and it helps control the movement, the opening and the closing of the pupil. So this is the ciliary body. So once light hits the lens, it's going to be sent to the choroid. The choroid is a very pigmented part of the eye. It contains all of the blood vessels and it contains pigments that's going to help absorb all the excess light so that light isn't just scattered around your eye. So this is the choroid layer right here. Then we move into the middle, the most inner layer of the eye, which is the retina. So the outer layer has the sclera, the middle layer has the choroid, and then the inner layer is the retina. So you can see sclera, and then the darker portion here, that's the choroid, and then now the most inner layer, this is the retina. The retina contains all of your photoreceptor cells, the rods and the cones, to help you process light and dark shades and colors when you see. So this is the retina layer. And then if you take a look in the retina layer, there is a darker, not a darker, but here it's shown as a yellowish. That is not a mistake. So this yellowish portion right here with the dark pigmented in the middle, this is called the fovea centralis. In this region, this is where you have the sharpest vision because all of your photoreceptor cells, they are pretty much scattered throughout the retina, but there's a whole bunch of them clustered here. So this is your sharp vision. On the other hand, if you notice this opening area right here, you don't have any photoreceptor cells here. This would be your blind spot. This spot right here is the optic, this is where the optic nerve is going to come out. So this is the region where the optic disc is. This is where all the light information leaves your eye. So this right here would be your blind spot. As I showed you before in the previous picture where the optic nerve is, here is pretty much the optic disc region where there are no photoreceptors. Okay, so going back to this diagram right here, you can see the anterior and posterior segments of the eye. I want to talk about two humors that you have in your eye. These humors are the liquid portion. You have the aqueous humor that is found in the front, and then you also have the vitreous humor, which is found in the middle portion of your eye. Both the aqueous and the vitreous humor are pretty much a gelatinous fluid layer that has pretty much a whole bunch of water and some proteins. These humors are going to contribute to the eye shape. The difference though is that the aqueous humor, that portion of liquid can be regenerated throughout your life, but the vitreous humor is something that was formed during embryonic development and it cannot be regenerated. But both of these liquid portion help contributes to your eye shape. All right, so here I'm showing you a dissection of a cow eye. So if you take a look at the cow eye dissection, you can pretty much see all the structures that we talked about. The sclera is the outer portion right here, and then you can see the optic nerve that leaves the eye. Now, if you take a look here, this is the cornea. This is where light initially enters in the eye. Underneath the cornea, you can see the iris. And since cows, they have black eyes, you can see the iris here, and then you can see the opening, that would be the pupil. The ciliary body is a little bit hard to see here, but it's going to be all the muscle that helps anchor the lens to the eye and help control the iris movement so that the pupil can dilate or constrict. And then here is the lens. Now this fluid here is the vitreous humor. And you notice that there's a whole bunch of vitreous humor that was pulled out in this eye dissection. If you take a look at the back of the eye, you can see the choroid, which is that pigmented portion that helps absorb excess light. And the interesting thing about cows is, well, you can also see this in your dog's, your cat's, sheep's eye, any animal that can see in low light vision. In addition to the choroid, they have this iridescent layer called the tapetum lucidum. So this is the tapetum lucidum here. And what the tapetum lucidum does is that in addition to the choroid, it not only absorbs the excess light, but it reflects it back outward. So if you ever shine a light into your dog's or cat's eye at night, you'll notice that there is a reflective glare that comes back at you. And this is the tapetum lucidum. And because of this layer, this is what really helps them see under low light condition. And then this white layer right here that looks like a tissue-ish part, this tissue is actually the retina. So the retina is actually sitting on top of the choroid and the tapetum lucidum. In this diagram, it's just pulled out, but this is the retina here, and this is the tissue layer that contains all of the photoreceptors, such as the rods and the cones. And again, this is showing you a dissected eye from a cow. All right, let's go ahead and move into the anatomy of the ear. All right, so with the ear, you have the outer, the middle, and the inner ear. In the outer ear, you have the auricle. This is also known as the pinna. The auricle is composed of a whole bunch of elastic cartilage tissue, and there's no nerve endings here because of this. Well, there are, but fewer, and because of the cartilage tissue, there's no compact bones. Because of this, you can pierce the auricle regions and it wouldn't hurt as much because it's just cartilage tissues. So this is the auricle. And sound comes into your ear via the external acoustic meatus, also known as the ear canal. And remember, within the external acoustic meatus, there's going to be a whole bunch of ceraminous glands which produce ceramin, which are your earwax. And then we reach the tympanic membrane. So this is the tympanic membrane right here, also known as your eardrum. So now we start the middle portion of the ear. Inside the middle portion of your ear, you can find the three smallest bones in your body, which are the ossicles. You have the malleus, the incus, and the stapes. The tympanic membrane is going to send vibration to these ossicles, and these ossicles are going to intensify the vibration so that you can hear very quiet whispers. The stapes, you can see here, that it is going to connect directly into the inner ear. The sound that comes in from the stapes to the inner ear is going to travel through an oval window. So this portion of the stapes right here, it's in the shape of an oval. It's connected to the oval window. Any leftover sound wave is going to travel into the inner ear as well through the round window that is found in the lower portion. It's a little bit hard to see, but you got the oval window on the top and then the round window down here. Now, within the inner ear, you have the cochlea where auditory information is processed, and then you have the semicircular canal, which is where balance and spatial information is processed. The nerve that sends the signal to the brain is called the vestibular cochlear nerve. This is the nerve that sends the auditory information to the temporal lobe of your brain for processing hearing information. And then you also have this tube in the back portion of your ear. This tube right here is called the auditory tube. It doesn't have a role in hearing. It's also known as the Eustachian tube or the pharyngeal tympanic tube. This is the tube that is going to open up whenever you're swallowing, eating, so that it can balance air pressure between the inner portion of your ear and the outer portion. Sometimes these tubes, they accidentally open up when you are in high altitude, and because of this, there's an imbalance in air pressure. So you get that uneasy feeling if this tube was open when you're in high altitude. All right, so those are the structures of the ears. Okay. And what I do want to show you in more details are the ossicles. This ear model, they don't show you the ossicles connecting to one another, but please keep in mind that the malleus, the incus, and the stapes, they do attach to one another. This is what they actually look like. This is the malleus. It's also known as the hammer because it looks like the hammer shape. It's connected to the incus, and the incus is connected to the stapes. The stapes will send the vibration to the inner ear via the oval window. So this is what it actually looks like. All right, and this concludes the ear anatomy.